So it is the second day of April, and I'm magically back outside in the garden, and I feel pretty good about that. Today, we're looking at my favorite thing to plant in the beginning of April. That's potatoes. So I'm going to tell you where I get my seed potatoes from, and I'm going to show you how I plant these potatoes. So let's start with Exhibit A here, which is a basket of interesting looking things, and these are all potatoes. And if you're wondering where these came from, well, they came from my kitchen counter. And why were they there? Because I left them there from last year. I harvested these, and as I'm harvesting them, I'm usually tossing them in a basket, and I eat what I can, and otherwise I just leave them on the kitchen counter. And these are probably sitting since October. So it's been 6-7 months since these were sitting there, and I didn't do anything. And you can kind of tell. These had probably a little too much light, so they're getting a little too big already. The ones that have these really long roots, ideally that would have happened in the ground. But it is what it is, and I'm still gonna plant at least some of these. The other basket here, well, this is another basket from my kitchen counter. And I didn't order any seed potatoes this year. And in fact, there's only 1 year that I did that. And I kind of regret it because they pretty much sent me bags of potatoes. And this right here, this is a potato that came out of a bag of potatoes. So this is a potato that over the last 2 months or so, I just tossed in a basket, and look what happens, seed potato. So in my opinion, this is almost the ideal seed potato, because it's a thick potato, it hasn't rotted at all, you're not pushing your hand through it, it's not, it doesn't smell bad, and it's still kind of firm, it's holding up, and it's got these individual roots coming out of it. Now, a lot of potato tutorials you see will recommend that you cut it in half, you wait a day for that to scab over, and then plant it with the roots up. With this particular potato here, I'm gonna plant it so it's face up like this, but instead of spending the time cutting it in half, I'm just gonna pull that off. I'm just gonna, whoa, and drop it. I'm just gonna scrape that off. Am I worried about it? No, not one bit. I'm gonna dig a hole and I'm gonna put it in the ground just like this. So in this basket here, I've got probably more potatoes than I have space to plant. So I think what I'm gonna do now is just go through these two baskets and pick out the ones that seem probably the most viable for planting. With that said, I'm gonna pick out some potatoes here and line them up. And one thing that I did want to mention is that you might have potatoes that are like this. They're the small sort of bite-sized potatoes. There's no reason why you can't use these. I'm not actually sure if these would be better or worse, but my theory is that potatoes that look like this, that have a little bit more mass to them, are starting with those initial nutrients in a greater quantity. And I'm not sure that the small potatoes are necessarily a cultivar, a variety of potato. These might just be all the small potatoes that they picked because they didn't have a good harvest. So they went into these bags, said, gold, mini gold luxury potatoes, add some kind of word like that. So I'm not gonna start any of these potatoes because I've got all of these potatoes. I don't know what happened with this thing, but that's something else. Ugh. All right, so now let's go through the basket. And the tricky thing about this for me is some of these are coming right out of the sides. And I'm not sure that I would be able to actually pull those through without snapping them. So this is probably not an ideal way to hold the potatoes over time. And in fact, if you wanted to do a better job preserving these potatoes to be seed potatoes, you could take a sheet of newspaper, wrap your potato in that, and then store it in a cool, dry place until a day like today. And then when you open it up, it should look a little bit less like it's So the next thing I'll do is figure out how many of each of these potatoes I want to plant. And to figure that out, I'm going to be looking at my garden space. I've got a garden row here. It's about 3 feet wide, and I forget how long. I think it's like 40 feet, but looking at it right now, maybe it's just 30. I should probably measure it, but I'm not going to today. So I'm going to say that I can plant at least 20 potatoes in each of those rows. So I should have, to start, about 40 here. So let's just count them up. So now we've got 30 right there. Now here comes the bigger challenge. I've got a lot of potatoes that don't even look like this. I'm not even sure that I can get 10 of them like this because these vines, these roots are so long. They're like vines. Like vines think alike. Well, we got a couple bonus ones here. Gardener's choice. We've got this crab looking potato this year. And we've got this like devil horns or butt thing to grow as well. All right, well that's enough of looking at the potatoes. I think we're gonna get to planting these now. I'm gonna be using my trenching tool. So I'm gonna start using that now. I'm gonna get shoveling. I'm gonna dig out a big old line all the way back to the end of the row. And then I'm just going to walk through and drop my potatoes in. So let's get to it. This width is all you really need to drop a potato in a hole. So you don't need to dig a 1 foot wide trench just to put a tiny potato in there. These are my drip irrigation lines. So that was a lot of work, and it had nothing to do with the potatoes. It was all about the mint. This pile right here, that's the second pile of that size that I pulled out in the last 2 days. So that might look like a stack of hay, but this is all mint root. So the tricky thing about mint is once it starts growing, it doesn't stop. It seems like it goes down about a foot and has the tendency to just keep going and going and going. If you leave this in your garden bed for too long, it's gonna take over. Deer's running through in the background. Also hearing some sirens. So put 2 and 2 together. It's a venison emergency. So I think it's finally time to plant at least some of these potatoes. So I'm gonna get started on that. But before I do, I brought out one of my, I guess you could call it garden tools. It's a tape measure. And what I'm gonna do is lay this out right next to the trench. And this is gonna help me evenly space out where I put the potatoes. So I'm gonna be doing these about once every foot, maybe once every foot and a half. Let's take a look and see. So I just realized something. I said I wasn't gonna measure my garden bed today, and I wasn't planning on it, but I just did. So this garden bed is about 30 feet. All right, so welcome to the 2025 potato draft. And this year in first place, we're gonna be starting off, not the all-stars, we're gonna be starting off the purple people eaters, the little guys in the back. So why don't we go ahead and plant all of those purple ones on the outside. It feels like the wrong decision, and that's why I'm gonna do it, just for fun. So I assure you I didn't do this math in advance, but we have 30 in this line here, so that is exactly what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna start with this one right here, just for fun. And this is how easy it is at this point. You just walk down to the row, well, not you, me, and you put your potato in. But now we have a little bit of a predicament, which is this root here. We don't really want that above ground right now. I think it's a little too cold. Ideally, that would be above ground in about a week. Unfortunately, that's what I'm doing. So now I'm gonna walk back and grab another one. And this one is a little bit smaller. So that should fit the space nicely. And now we look at our measuring tape and we see right here, we're at about 1 foot. So now I'm gonna put that one right in. And I think you know where I'm going with this. We're back over here, we're picking up this one. And this one looks like a weird spider creature. Here's our 2 foot mark, and we're gonna drop that in the hole. And in case you weren't sure exactly what was gonna happen next, we're walking back and you get the point. That one's gonna be going in right here. Well, I think you get where I'm going with this, so I'm gonna go ahead and plant all these in this row. Then I'm gonna be working down that second row and planting those, so why don't we get going? So for these potatoes with the longer roots growing out of it, if I put them at the top of the trench, you'll see they would be above the soil level. If I get colder weather in the next couple of weeks before it really warms up, it might jeopardize the potato, it might kill it off. So what I'm doing is taking my garden knife here and just digging out an additional few inches down. And that's enough to put it all the way down, and that adds a little bit more depth so I can drop it all the way down in the hole. And I'll cover the rest with the soil in a second. But that additional height should give me enough time and security for this potato to last a little bit longer. The roots that are sticking out, I think those are called chits, C-H-I-T-S. In this case, I'm creating a little more work for myself because I've got some pretty long chits. And I had to dig a little deeper to make sure that my chits don't see the light of day for a couple weeks. Anyways, I'm about to do the second row, but before I do, I have to fill this back in. So to fill it back in, I'm just gonna push that in with my rake here, but I have to get to doing this quick because the sun's gonna be going down pretty soon, and it's a little bit of a chilly day and I can feel the breeze. So I wanna get going. All right, well, the potato planting is done, and the garden bed, you can't really see it right now, but I think it looks pretty good. We'll check back on that later. But in all, I think I planted about 62 potatoes, so we pretty much filled out the whole row, and I'm pretty happy with what I got done. Anyways, I'm exhausted from that, and I gotta clean up, and it's cold and windy, and yeah, so I'm gonna pack stuff up, get inside for the night, but I do appreciate you guys watching the video to this point. Since you did, hope you liked it. If you liked it, hope you can tap that like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel because I told you so. All right, see you later.